Worse.
Welcome to Issues That Matter. I'm Cynthia Pooler, and my guest today is my friend Steve Behar. And Steve is going to talk about the the election of Tom Suozzi in the third congressional district of New York State. And the reason I'm doing this on Issues That Matter is because this is a national issue. Uh, the oh my God, George Santos became a joke, and he was a joke all over the country, maybe all over the world. So he stepped down, and they had this special election. And you were thinking about running for a while. Tell us how everything transpired and Tom Suozzi became the candidate and won the election.
Well, hey, it's good to see you, Cynthia. As you said, I had I had filed to run uh, back in the middle of last summer. Um, at that point, there was a wide open field, and I had literally dozens of people from the district reach out to me and say, "Hey, you got to run. You should run." So we filed the paperwork and we started running. But as you know, Tom Suozzi had been the congressman in that district for 3 terms, 6 years. And before I filed the paperwork, I had called Tom, um, and I had told him, "Listen, you're not running, so I'm going to, and I'm not running because you're not in the race, because I think you're the best candidate to take that back for the Democrats." And Tom at that point had said he wasn't planning on running in a primary. However, if it was a special election and they reached out to him and asked him to run, he would do that. And ultimately, that's what happened. And when it became when it was becoming a special election and it was obvious that Tom was going to be the nominee, I had reached out to him, and I believe I was the first um, candidate in the race to drop out and immediately endorse Tom Suozzi. And through the race, I went to a whole bunch of his events, and I knocked on doors at least 2 times a week. I was knocking on doors in Queens to make sure that we took that seat.
So, when you had made the decision to run, how many other people were deciding to run? And you said Tom was not one of them, right?
Right. Tom wasn't in that original bunch, that scrum of, I think it was 7 people, of 7 candidates.
Okay.
And, at that point, I think it was a wide open race. And ultimately, clearly Tom was in the best position to take that seat back.
Okay. So, do you think he ran because the leadership in the House wanted somebody familiar rather than an unknown, such as you and the other candidates that were deciding to throw their hat in the ring?
I mean, there were some people in this race. I mean, I had run for city council. I've been involved in, Eastern Queens for decades. Anna Kaplan was in that race. She was a former state senator. Josh Lafferson was in that race, and he was a former Nassau County legislator. So it wasn't as if it was a bunch of unknowns, but I think that the leadership of the Democratic Party, whether it's Hakeem Jeffries or Joe Biden, believed that the best chance to take that seat was someone who's proven he could win that seat, and that was Tom, who had won it 3 times previously, and certainly had much better name recognition than anybody else in the race.
So if Tom had decided not to run for governor and ran for re-election back in 2022, it's a safe bet to say nobody would even know who George Santos was, right?
I think you're 100% right. I think had Tom run for re-election in 2022, he would have won, even with the red wave that went through Long Island. Now, it's funny, we look back at that 2022 race, and as a Democrat, you say we did really, really well across the entire country, pretty much except for New York and specifically pretty much except for Long Island. So, but I think he was strong enough where he would have held his seat.
Mm-hmm. Now, the the house was the house was lost, would you say, because of Long Island?
I think it was Long Island plus, there was a few states, a few districts upstate, a couple of districts upstate that we lost. And, we lost 4 districts on Long Island. The Lawless seat, that I think we'll take back this year was lost. You know, those were seats that at least a handful of them should have been Democratic.
Hmm. So, um, McCarthy McCarthy was counting on Santos to stay because his majority was very small. So then Santos left, McCarthy left, and now what's the majority? Two?
I
Two
think it's down.
seats?
I think it's 3. If I, well, I think you've got. I think it's down to 2, but you've also have a vacant seat. I think,
Mm-hmm.
that I think was a Republican seat. So I think we've knocked it down to, uh, I guess, technically 4, because McCarthy's seat should go back to the Republicans. So, I think we need 4 more in November. I think this was one of 5.
So are you amazed that the CD3 in New York has such national repercussions?
Well, I had said, when it became a special, I had said that this will make the CD3 race essentially the first, election of the 2024 season, because I think now it'll be extremely difficult to knock out Tom, in December, in November. So, this was, us Democrats were looking, saying we need to take 5 seats, and we've taken one of them, and we're not going to lose that one. So, and that leads to, I guess, an interesting, position for the Republicans. For what do they do? Like, clearly, we're going to work our darndest to hold on to CD3. Now, I'm wondering what the Republicans do. I mean, this was a pretty big win for Tom, for Suozzi. And, there's 3 other seats here on Long Island, and I think the Lawless seat, is there for the taking. Do the Republicans in New York and the Republicans nationally put money into those other districts, and do they put money into CD3 again? I mean, I think if it was me, um, I would kind of leave that one alone and go and spend the money on those other seats that they need to defend. I would look at that, at CD3, as a loss, and move on from it.
Has there been any talk of Republicans stepping up to the plate yet?
You know what? I haven't even heard rumors, which is kind of interesting. I think they realized that Mazi Pilip was not ready for prime time, and it was an awful
The
choice. And
Democrat.
she's a registered Democrat, and clearly she was uninformed on issues, confused on issues, and I'm assuming that they knew it because from the very beginning, they were hiding her. They barely let her speak. She didn't, she refused to debate. She didn't show up to candidate forums. I went to several candidate forums from civic associations in Queens where she didn't show up. And the only debate she did was 5 days before the election, and she was awful. Which we watched. Anyone who watched that one debate, you sat there and you said, "Yeah, I see why they were hiding her."
So why do you think the Republicans picked a lightweight Democrat rather than field a Republican?
I think at the end of the day, I think it was a bad misstep. I think it was just a strategic mistake. I think they looked at her. Now she had run. She's a registered Democrat who 2 years ago ran as a Republican in the Nassau County legislature, had won in the Nassau County legislature, and conferences with the Republicans, but has never registered as a Republican. She's still a registered Dem. And I think that the Republicans thought that she's a woman, she's Black, and she's Jewish. And I think that they ignorantly believed that she was going to take some of the Black vote away, and she was going to take some of the Jewish vote away, and she was going to take some of the women's votes away, even though the Republicans' positions were against people of color and against women and their reproductive rights. And I think it was a failure. I think it was a strategic mistake that failed.
Mm. So uh the con- you keep fading out on me.
I gotta, it's that time of year. It's it's getting a little bit warm early, and my allergies are bothering me a little bit. So if I had to cough a little bit, I'm giving you a
Oh,
break.
okay.
And
So,
I heard it. I actually heard it on the radio just over the weekend. How like spring allergies. It's the end of February. Spring allergies are already kicking in when they normally don't kick in till like April.
right, right. So the the congressional districts in New York State are still up in the air, right?
They are. That's the best way to describe them. They are up in the air. Um, there's supposed to be some votes up in Albany today on lines, and it doesn't sound from my friends who are up in Albany, doesn't sound like those lines are getting voted on. And there's rumors that there's going to be new maps presented today. We'll have to watch and see what happens.
Hmm. Do you think the third congressional district will remain the same?
It's hard to say. The original line for the third went from Suffolk County through Nassau County, through Queens, over the Throgs Neck Bridge into the Bronx, and then up to Westchester. It was kind of crazy around Long Island Sound. We'll get nothing like that, but it'll be interesting to see.
Mm,
Um, it's the clearly these lines weren't representative of the population because we're a state where I think it's 3-1 Democrats to Republicans, yet our congressional congregation doesn't it doesn't reflect that at all.
mm-hmm. Hmm.
Sorry.
That's fine. That's fine. Um, uh, I'm still a little under the weather today. So what's your thoughts about 2024? You think Swazi's gonna keep it? If
Suozzis is
he,
going to stay. he's going to run and he'll win. I don't think there's anybody the Republicans could put up that are going to knock him out. So I would think, again, repeating what I said before, I think strategically, if they're smart, and how smart are they? They put up Mazzy Phillip against Tom, but if they're smart, I think they'll just stay away from CD3 and work on the other three seats on Long Island and a couple north of New York, and try to hold on to what they have.
So if there's a sweep of Democrats in New York with the congressional seats, will the Democrats win back the House?
Yeah, I mean, conceivably, New York can turn 4 more seats,
Right.
and that alone would flip the House.
Okay. Okay.
So I think we are, and there's a lot of other seats around the country that are also targeted. There are several seats that are held by Republican Congress members who went for Biden.
Mm-hmm.
And I think those are prime targets for Democrats this year. And there was a bunch of seats that were pretty close back 2 years ago. So it all depends on what happens, obviously, in the general. My belief is that Joe Biden is going to win relatively easily, and I think that's bodes well for the House. The Senate is a little tougher because the Democrats are defending a lot more seats, but I think we'll hold the Senate also.
Okay. So you think it'll be a clean sweep of Democrats from the executive all the
Mark
way?
it down, yes.
Really?
I think we'll take back both both houses of the legislature, and I think Joe Biden will win pretty handily.
Pretty handily. That's quite a statement.
Well, I mean, he won last time. I think he had what 306 electoral college votes, and won by more than 7 million votes.
Uh-huh.
Now, granted, it was tight in a few of those swing
Mhm.
states, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Georgia. But I think he'll do better than he did in those states this time.
So I don't think that a House seat is going to open up anytime soon for you, right?
I mean, at this point, Tom is in there, and I don't know, what his plans are, but I know he'll be the congressman in CD3 for this year and for 2 more years after that.
Uh-huh.
And Tom, though, I will say something about Tom. Um, Tom was a very good congressman, and he'll be a great congressman again. But Tom's always been, in my view, an executive. He was the mayor of Glen Cove. He was the Nassau County executive, and he ran for governor. And so I don't know what his future is. I don't think I'm not sure what his plan in his life for the rest of his life is going to be. But I could see him running for something else down the road.
So when he ran for governor, were you surprised?
I was I guess semi-surprised,
Okay.
and I actually supported him. I got a little bit of heat from the establishment Democrats about it, but I supported him. I knocked on some doors for him on election day. I worked at a poll site for him. So you know, the truth is the truth. Of course, when he didn't win the primary, I supported the governor, but during the primary, I was supporting Tom.
Mm-hmm. So what's on the horizon for Steve Behar?
Wow, that's a tough question. I'm not sure. I'm active. Like I said, I'm active in my community. I'm active politically. I knocked on doors for Tom at least twice a week. I went to a bunch of events for him. I did whatever I could. I'm about to help some friends who are running a petition, not as a, I've been campaign manager and field director before and senior consultant on campaigns. Now I'm just a volunteer. So, but I've got a couple of friends who are running, so I'll go out and get some signatures for them. And practicing law, and we'll see what the future has. It's kind of funny because it's literally the first time in my life where I'm really not sure what what is next.
Mhm.
But one good thing about being an attorney is that there's always something to do. And even when I was counsel in the state Senate for 2 years, and I was counsel in the New York City Council for 6 years. But even during my 8 years, when I was working as counsel in those two legislatures, I still had a part-time practice on the side. So I've never stopped practicing law.
Mhm.
So I'm working. I have my own solo firm, and I work with 3 other firms, um, doing work for them. So right now, I'm staying busy, but trying to figure out what's next.
Okay. So whatever is next, I hope, as the 2024 election evolves, I hope you will come back on issues that matter and add commentary to what's going on.
I definitely will, and I'm doing some work now in New York City and on Long Island, so I can kind of give you the what's going on from the ground in those
Okay.
areas. And there's some interesting primaries coming this June.
Okay,
Not
good.
only in the congressional races, but some assembly seats that are contested and some state Senate seats that are contested. So we should definitely keep in touch on that.
Okay, great. Uh, you've been listening to Steve Behar. I'm Cynthia Pooler. This is Issues That Matter. And if you like this show, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thanks, Steve. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Have a great day.